If you're a parent, you may be done with packing school lunches for a while, but you always have questions about your child's nutrition. Registered dietitian Nishta Saxena helps parents and kids with their meal plans every day and joins us to answer some of those questions. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you, Ben.
Okay, let's dive right into these because these are questions that a lot of parents have, including me.
Yes.
We're going to start with the very first one.
Yes.
And here's what one person writes. I feel like my kid should eat everything I put on her plate because if she doesn't, then she might feel hungry later, but my partner disagrees with me. What's your take on it?
Yeah, this can be a really common point of friction between parents. That might have been an older style of feeding. You may have grown up that way where we want to see you finish your plate or you don't leave the table. Some of that messaging actually we now know is a little bit negative for kids. We really want kids to be in charge of what they put into their body. It helps them develop kind of autonomy. It really reduces stress and anxiety around feeding because we're not asking them to eat something when they're already full. And it helps them sense whether they're full or whether they're hungry earlier on, so they know they have those cues as adults.
I like that idea, but my fear sometimes with my kids is then an hour after dinner they say they're hungry again, and I don't want them to think that I'm just a food dispensary.
No, that's fair. And so one thing that can help with that is having kind of a standardized schedule. So if you had times when you'd have dinner, keeping dinner meals to 20 or 30 minutes, and then knowing, yes, we are going to maybe have an evening snack, but it's at this time, it's not until this time, and here's what's offered then, and then that's it. And so over time, what you hope is that the consistency and the structure, kids really tend to thrive on that.
All right, here we go. My parents tell me they introduced all kinds of foods to me when I was little, but I'm conflicted about whether I should do the same with my 6-month-old. Should I include foods that are known to cause allergies, or should I eliminate them entirely? Help.
Yes, absolutely. So this is great. Our new pediatric guidelines, they're not that new anymore, 2012-13. They actually showed us through science that it's better for children to be exposed to these previously thought to be allergenic foods early on, even actually as pregnant women.
Like what foods, for example?
So soy, nuts, tree nuts, peanuts, egg, shellfish, wheat. Those are some of the typical foods that can cause allergies. But when we give them to our children, even as early as 6 months, it can actually help their body become resilient. It helps their body understand that the proteins are friends and not foes, and it actually lowers the risk of allergy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, my 3-year-old is a very picky eater, especially when it comes to fruits and veggies. I feel like he's not getting the nutrition he needs. Should I be giving him multivitamins? This is a concern that I have myself.
I know, I remember. The one thing I'll say is I really like to reframe the word picky. I feel like that's a really negative term for kids.
It is negative.
It's negative. You don't like it when you have labels thrown at you, right?
No. Okay, all right, I'll give it to you, but I'm calling him what I'm calling him.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so either way, what we want to do is obviously focus on food first. A 2012 study did show that most Canadian children actually do get what they need from fruits and vegetables and a whole food diet. They really don't need supplementation. If your child's growing and developing well, I wouldn't be as concerned with providing a multivitamin. Sometimes we see lower levels of calcium and vitamin D, so definitely supplementing with vitamin D on a regular basis and just focusing again on that structure and how your child is growing and developing, and that should tell you whether or not they're doing well.
All right, here's another one here. I'm concerned about my 6-year-old's weight gain. Should I feed him low-fat foods to avoid obesity?
Yes, this is a really tricky one because I think as adults we would think, oh, well, I want to lower fat and I want to make sure I'm cutting calories. A child that's struggling with obesity is a very, very serious issue that you want to handle gently, okay? Fat is very important. Healthy fat for children's brain and nerve development. It also helps them absorb fat-soluble vitamins. So if you cut fat, healthy fats from their diet, you really run the risk of making them malnourished.
And shouldn't a parent know the difference, I would hope, know the difference between a child who's struggling with obesity and weight issues and someone who's just about to go on to a growth spurt? Because I put on a lot of weight as a kid before I just shot up by about a foot. Absolutely.
That's an excellent point. So you want to be checking with a professional to see how your child's growth is, the trajectory. But the other thing is you want to address an issue of a child that's over fat as a family issue. It's really not a child issue. It's a family issue. What's going on in the family? What are some of the patterns and things that can be shifted? There's really no one nutrient that we have to remove in a child's diet to keep them healthy.
Yeah, it's not like a 6-year-old who's going off to McDonald's on their own.
Right, and you don't want to cut out a food group unnecessarily because it's a kind of a large picture thing.
All right, here's another question.
Yes.
There is so much conflicting information about kids having gluten. What's your take on it?
Well, it's a really interesting question because I think there's the gluten piece and then I think there's the processed food piece, and I think sometimes they get confused. So obviously with our kids, at this point, we don't want to give them lots of processed food. There's no benefit to that, but we don't actually have a lot of good, solid scientific evidence that shows us that all children need to avoid gluten. Of course, if you have celiac disease, gluten will become toxic to your body, but otherwise, we really want to focus on whole food sources. So something like a steel-cut oat or a whole grain rye, even if you can have those foods in your child's diet periodically, if you follow a lower gluten pattern, still really important to make sure your child's getting exposed to that protein.
Nishta, can you just write down your phone number and like some
sure.
sort of 24-hour number that I can call anytime I have a problem with my kids?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much.